Let's first go over to the United States. Now, in the final 6 months of his presidential tenure, Joe Biden seems to have set his sights on major reforms in the U.S. Supreme Court. At an event in Austin, Texas, President Biden slammed extremism in the institution, claiming that the apex court had been undermining public confidence. Addressing his supporters at an event marking the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act in Austin, Biden issued this call for major reforms to tenure limits on Supreme Court justices. The president also asked U.S. lawmakers to ratify a constitutional amendment limiting presidential immunity.
I have great respect for our institutions and the separation of powers laid out in our Constitution. But what's happening now is not consistent with that doctrine of separation of powers. Extremism is undermining the public confidence in the court's decisions.
Biden's push for Supreme Court reforms come mere 90 days away from the U.S. presidential elections. Currently, the institution holds 9 Supreme Court justices in office, with 6 judges having been appointed by Republican presidents George H.W. Bush and Donald Trump, and 3 by Democrat presidents Barack Obama and Joe Biden. This has proven to be a major thorn for the Blue Party, as the current bench has overseen divisive and, some argue, regressive judgments concerning abortion rights and federal regulatory powers that have stood unchallenged for decades.
The court is not self-policing. The court is not dealing with the obvious conflicts of interest. We need a mandatory code of ethics for the Supreme Court, and we need it now.
There have also been concerns over the proximity and the bias of conservative justices towards Republican lawmakers. Case in point, Justice Clarence Thomas, who was found to have been accepting luxurious vacations at the behest of billionaire Republican donor Harlan Crow. Now, Justice Thomas was hit by articles of impeachment by Democratic Senator Alexandria Ocasio earlier this month. President Joe Biden has issued calls to rid the Supreme Court judges of their lifetime appointments to the court. In its stead, Biden proposes legislation should be passed in the Congress to establish a system wherein the sitting president appoints a justice to the apex court every 2 years for a tenure of 18 years. Biden argues that this measure will ensure that the composition of the court thus changes with some periodically and democratically given the nomination process. Biden has also called upon Congress to establishing a court code of ethics that would require justices to disclose gifts, refrain from public political activity, and rescue themselves from cases in which they or their spouses have conflicts of interest, financial or otherwise. Lastly, the president has also called upon the Congress to reverse the Supreme Court's recent landmark presidential immunity ruling. The contentious ruling extended the delay in the Washington criminal case against Donald Trump on the charges of plotting to overturn the results of the 2020 elections. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.